pointed out to me that over the course of this program, I may have presented certain biases. That there are certain films and stars to whom I will be more favorable, Marvel movies, Jessica Chastain, Michael B. Jordan, such as that. And that there are others that really can do nothing to please me, that I am going to dislike their films from the get-go, and nothing is going to change my mind. The movies of DC, Amy Schumer, Will Ferrell, that one girl from Pitch Perfect, basically anyone who was ever a cast member on Saturday Night Live. Look, let's not get bogged down in it. The point is that maybe, there have been times when I have been less than favorable to specific actors. And on that list, you will find the name of one Christopher Pine. Perhaps, in the past, I have referred to him as aptly named because he's one of the most wooden actors working. Or I may have lumped him in as part of the on-screen couple who are the most likely to be a charisma vacuum and suck all the joy and life out of a performance, along with Miss Gadot. If that is true, if I have expressed that negative opinion of Mr. Pine, then I think it's time we rectify that and we take a look at a film specifically designed for him. So much so that he's one of the executive producers on it. So this is a project that he really believed in and wanted to make come to fruition, and did. This is one of those, I don't know what you'd call these movies anymore. They've become very prevalent for this review show over the last couple years as, movie theaters are a little bit stingier. There aren't as many movies coming out. These films that are released like maybe in one movie theater, but then you can also get them on YouTube or on demand at the same time. So I tend to, go with the on demand because I don't have to get off my couch. What's better than being able to review a movie and still stay in your pajamas? So I came across this film and watched the trailer and said, this actually looks kind of interesting. Maybe one of the problems I've had with Mr. Pine is that everything I've seen him in have been very, bigger than life type productions, as James T. Kirk in those god-awful Star Trek reboots, as, the love interest in those god-awful Wonder Woman movies. So perhaps what he needs a film like this. So I saw this trailer, and it kind of reminded me as a little bit more reality-based Bourne Identity. And I thought, let's give this a shot. It doesn't look too bad, and let's take a look at it, and let's give Mr. Pine the benefit of the doubt. Maybe, acting in, big comic book and sci-fi movies, it's not easy. I know everyone thinks it is, but that was the misconception Hollywood fell into for much of its existence, that these films, you didn't need strong actors, or that it was easy to say these ridiculous lines and make them sound real. So maybe what he needs is something more grounded, something more realistic. And maybe that will finally prove to me that Mr. Pine is an actor worthy of my respect. So with that in mind, I checked out The Contractor. And what did I find? What do you think I found? Okay, let's go over this technically motion picture and see what we think. So, the film stars, of course, Mr. Christopher Pine as generic white soldier number 2563. You know the type if you've watched any kind of spy movie or pseudo-spy movie or military movie within the last 30 years. He is the single greatest fighting machine the U.S. government has ever produced. One of those I can kill you by blinking at you kind of fellows. As our film opens, he has fallen on hard times. His knee got tore up in the line of duty, and during the rehab, he has become hooked on various drugs, painkillers, other things that he is taking to, rehab the leg. Apparently, the new commanding officer of his base gets wind of this and immediately not so much court-martials him, but dismisses him from the service with honors, but without benefits and medical and retirement and all of that. My first question, I'm not a military man, obviously. My father was, but the closest thing I've ever gotten to the military is, watching various movies on the subject. I don't know the inner workings of the military-industrial complex, but can they do that? Like, one failed drug test and you're out? Is that like a thing? I know they're really hard on that, but is that just how they, just boot you right out? I mean, don't they have to have a hearing or something? Or don't you have the option of, okay, we're going to send you to rehab for a while? I don't know. Again, it could be completely true. You can't have someone jonesing on a dangerous mission, so I can see how it would be. But again, it's just one of those things where it's very sudden. Hi, come in here. How are you? Good. Well, you're out, buddy. Hit the bricks. So, realizing that, actually, no, I was about to make a joke about how he realized that his lifetime of murder was not the most, applicable job skills, and he was having trouble finding work, but that's actually not true. Apparently, they mentioned it several times, people from the private sector are banging down his door and are going to offer him, huge paychecks with benefits and all this other shit, to go work in these private sectors, but for some reason, he doesn't want that. It's very unclear why he doesn't want that. I mean, obviously, it lacks the intrigue, and, I can understand that. That's like, actually, no, I can't understand that. I can't understand that. I was about to make a comparison to, like, me being a trained director with a master's degree and awards under my belt, going and directing community theater, but that's not true. I believe community theater deserves good directors. I think it deserves people with skills. Why is that bad? So I don't know. So, but they never quite explain why this is an unsatisfactory arrangement for him. So he goes and sees his buddy. I'm just going to call him Beardface because I don't fucking remember his name. He's another generic white soldier, and the guy might as well have just had "I'm gonna betray you" written above his head, because these movies, and you're like, oh, that's his old buddy. They've been through thick and thin. He saved his life once. He's gonna betray him. You just know that's coming. But Beardface Buddy convinces him that you don't want to go to the private sector. What you want to do is join up with me in this gig I got with this other private sector, a very shady private sector, who employs a lot of military, ex-military, and we go on actual missions and do actual things. And Chris Pine, and he waves the even larger paycheck under his nose, and Chris Pine says, hey, sign me up for that shit. It's at this point, again, sorry about the glare, I'm going to get out of it here as soon as the light turns. It's at this point that the movie this most reminds me of is that Keanu Reeves film, Replicants, that I reviewed a few years ago. You remember Replicants? No, of course you don't. And that's too bad, because Replicants is a gloriously stupid movie that I think deserves way more credit than it ever got. But this film very much reminds me of that, because Chris Pine goes and sees the leader of this, I don't know what you'd even call him, paramilitary operation? I don't know what this would be. And the fact that none of this shit strikes him as shady is just like, do you have no working brain? Are you that blinded by greed that none of this setup sounds iffy to you? In a surprise bit of casting, Kiefer Sutherland shows up as the leader, Rusty, of this group. Kiefer Sutherland, it was a day yesterday for normally over-the-top actors dialing it back, and I didn't even realize it was Kiefer Sutherland at first. I had to look it up, because I'm like, is that Kiefer Sutherland? But the guy might as well have introduced himself once again as one of my favorites. Hi, I'm Bob Evil. And, I mean, but Chris Pine just says, all right, this sounds great. We're going on missions, but it's not approved by the government. They don't know we're there. All right, yeah, cool. Sign me up for that. None of this seems shadier than an oak tree during summertime to me. Yes, sirree, Bob. This operation is so fucking shady you could take a book and read under it. But, you know, whatever. So Chris Pine signs on for this. He goes to Germany, where they are apparently going to stop a man who is developing some biological weapon. So he, Beardface, and the rest of their team go on surveillance and stalk the guy, and they make the plan to break into his lab. They do. They kill the guy, set the lab on fire, killing at least two people in the process, steal all his research. They get stopped by the cops and immediately have a shootout with them. Again, this is something that Chris Pine just seems to be okay with. You know, he questions it for maybe 5 seconds and then is like, oh, well, we shot cops. All right, well, there you go. During this instance, all but Chris Pine and Beardface are killed, and they have to separate. And we now follow Chris Pine as, for reasons completely unknown, or maybe I missed them. For some reason, Kiefer Sutherland has decided to betray Chris Pine. I do not understand why. As we will find out later, he extracted Beardface and sent him home, but for some reason felt we've got to kill Chris Pine. I don't get why that is. Now, obviously, what we are going to find out is that the guy was not, in fact, working on biological weapons, but was rather working on a vaccine for a biological weapon. And somebody had hired Rusty to kill this guy so he wouldn't get this vaccine. But at the time, Chris Pine doesn't know that. He's just trying to get out of there, and they just decide we're going to betray him right now. I guess getting the jump on it. And so the film is now Rusty's shady as fuck military group chasing after Chris Pine going to location and getting back and unraveling the mystery and all of that good stuff. So the first thing I have to say is that the movie is not unwatchable. It's not terrible. As a matter of fact, I found some of the procedural stuff rather interesting, to be completely honest. And it does kind of beg that question, is this how actual military operations work? Or, because if it was, why would you tell us that? Why would you show this in a movie? Because that seems like a dangerous thing to, advise that, yeah, that's how we do that. It's like, so you don't know if this is actually how a military operation would work or whether this is Hollywood fiction. And if it is, I'm mad at them for showing. Of course, no one's going to see this movie, so I guess it really doesn't matter. It's kind of like declassifying all this stuff about UFOs. Only the conspiracy theorists are going to believe it, and it just so happens you're doing it while much more shady things are going on. So it already has a stench of, of corruption to it. But anyway, I digress. So the movie has its upsides. I also like that it, again, in comparison to the Bourne movies, this one does feel much more grounded. Chris Pine's character does feel like a much more realistic person than Jason Bourne, who was like basically Captain America, but without the serum. But so in that aspect, it sticks very closely to that grounding and that realism, to its detriment, to the point where the climactic battle between Chris Pine and Rusty is so anticlimactic that you're just like, oh, that was it? Okay. I mean, I guess, yeah, that might be how it worked in real life. Doesn't mean that's interesting to watch. So let's talk about the major question, the thing that, I brought up at the beginning of this review. how is Chris Pine's acting? And the answer is, it's Chris Pine acting. Apparently, as I mentioned, the only thing I'd ever seen Chris Pine in previous to this were sci-fi or comic book movies. And that requires a different skill level. So in this film, Chris Pine's acting philosophy was look sad and stare straight ahead. The Robert Pattinson Batman school of acting. Only he didn't have the emo Peter haircut. Which, while we're on the subject, real quick digression, how come no one's giving Robert Pattinson shit for that? For almost, 20 years, all you've heard about is people whining and moaning and bitching about Tobey Maguire's emo haircut in Spider-Man 3, but Robert Pattinson shows up to play Batman looking like the lead singer for The Cure, and everyone's just like, it's a masterpiece. Anyway, but yes, Chris Pine just stares straight ahead. He talks so low, like the volume is up on my TV, as he's just, I want to do that. I want to do things. That's his acting for the majority of the movie. He has one scene where he finally emotes, the damn brakes, and it is the funniest fucking thing ever, because the only thing funnier than a bad actor trying to downplay it is a bad actor trying to be serious and emote at the same time. It is the fucking glorious outpouring of bad acting. And you're just like, oh, Chris, oh. I do wonder sometimes, with Chris Pine, honestly, the movies I have just listed off that I've seen him in have not been the best written. It's not like he was in a Marvel movie for his DC work, and it's not like those Star Trek movies are anything even remotely resembling Star Trek. So I wonder sometimes, if he had good material and good directors to work with, could he be coached up? I don't believe he is a very powerful actor. I don't think he's a very great actor. But I don't think he's the worst I've ever seen. I think that with the right material and the right director and, a script that actually has words, I think there might be something he can do, but I have not seen any evidence of this. Factor in that, okay, you're thinking maybe, okay, it's an ensemble piece. So he's not trying to be the star, except for the fact his face is on the fucking poster, or his face is the fucking poster. It's not even that his face is on the fucking poster, it is the fucking poster. But the rest of the characters are so generic and bland that, who the fuck are you people? I don't know any of these people's names. Like I say, the one guy's name is Beardface to me. The only one I know is Kiefer Sutherland as Rusty, because it's Kiefer Sutherland, and Rusty is a stupid name. So, of course, it sticks in your head. Of course, we get, Chris Pine's character has daddy issues, because of course he does. It's all just so bland and unremarkable, all of it. Like I said, some of the procedural stuff was kind of interesting, but beyond that, there's no character you care about. Also, and this is a big thing, they set up all of this shit. Chris Pine's drug problem, the fact that he murdered a good man who was trying to help the world, the fact that he murdered police officers and God knows who else. There's no moral redemption for him. His motivation is to get back home to his family, which includes his frigid, unfeeling, and unsupportive wife, who is basically the worst parts of Adrian in the later Rocky movies, all rolled into one. No matter what scene she's in, she's not happy with him. So it's like, yes, I've got to get back to that. Can't wait. But, we never see that he attempts to do the right thing, get the guy's research out there, make recompense to the guy's family, It's all just a lot of, fuck you, widow and now children of two whose husband I killed. I don't give a shit what happens to you. I get my family back, so who cares? It's all, there's nothing about him. They make the fact that he's on drugs and he needs it for his knee Obviously, it's part of the drama when he can't get it and he's on the run. But they never make the fact that he has to detox, get clean, whatever, part of any kind of redemption arc. It's just kind of another thing in the story that goes nowhere. So, yeah. So, the one thing I'll say for this movie is, you might have noticed, if you're watching these in order, that I was a little kinder to Morbius than I think most of my ilk. And I gotta say that I think part of the reason for that is because I had viewed this movie first. I watched this movie first. And going and seeing Morbius, at least Morbius had energy, and it was interesting to look at, and shit happened in it. I mean, none of it was good, but at least it was... it was still very boring, but at least it was boring in a somewhat nostalgic way. So the nicest thing I can say about this movie is that it makes Morbius less bad by comparison. I don't know if that's a quote you want to put on your movie poster. I just don't think that's gonna garner you a whole lot of of sympathy. But yes, there it is. The Contractor, it makes Morbius suck a little less. There you go. Okay. So I have driven to a part of town. I have no idea where I'm at. In an attempt to drive out of the sun, I've just kept going straight until the road stopped, and now I'm somewhere. So this is going to be an interesting journey getting back to my house. But anyway, so there it is. There is my review of The Contractor. Oh, I haven't graded it. I'm sorry. I'm so busy trying to figure out where the hell I was, I realized I hadn't finished the review. So final grade for The Contractor. You know what? It's dealing out more C's than a Spanish couple cheering for Daniel Bryan. So I'm going to go a C-, yet another one. Another C- on this one. It's not unwatchable, but there is a reason it's been released to YouTube and on demand. This, even before it was released to one movie theater, not even in my area. And I have to drive 45 minutes out of my way to go see this. So there's a reason. It's forgettable. It's generic. If you like these kind of movies, it's serviceable enough, but there's nothing about it that's special or stands out. And Chris Pine, sorry, buddy, you stay on the shit list. I have hopes that maybe one day you'll make it off, but they're not high. So just stop digging. Hand me the shovel, buddy. So, all right. So there we go. Horses. There's a lot of horses out here. I'm in horse territory, apparently. Anywho, so with that in mind, thank you for joining me. I need to turn around before I get even more lost. So thank you for joining me. And as always, drive safe, and I'll see you at the movies if I ever make it back.